You did the right thing. You stayed calm when the old version of you would have reacted. You kept working when nobody noticed. You stopped chasing approval. You set boundary. You choose discipline. You try to become better. And then nothing happened. No sign, no result, no message, no sudden peace, no proof that the new version of you is actually working. And this is where most people start to break. Not when things are hard. People can handle hard. They break when hard gives them no feedback. Because effort without evidence start to feel embarrassing. You start asking yourself, am I being patient or am I just fooling myself? And that question is dangerous because there is a phase in every real change where you may look foolish before you look wise. Before the result arrives, before the body change, before the business grows, before the channel take off, before the healing feels real, before anyone else understands what you are doing. You have kept going without proof. This is patience without reassurance. And it is much harder than normal patience. Because normal patience waits for time to pass. This kind of patience waits while your mind keeps asking, where is the evidence? This video is not about just be patient. That advice is too simple. Sometimes patient is wisdom. Sometimes patient is avoidance. Sometimes people stay in the wrong place for too long and call it loyalty. Sometimes they repeat a broken strategy and call it faith. So we need to be precise. The real question is not, can you wait? The real question is, can you continue intelligently while evidence is still forming? Because that is where most people fail. They do not fail because they do not know what to do. They fail because the new path does not comfort them fast enough. And by the end of this video, I want you to see impatience differently. Sometimes impatience is not proof that the path is wrong. Sometimes impatience is withdrawal from the old reward system. The old version of you have rewards, not healthy rewards, not long-term rewards, but fast rewards. Reacting give relief, checking give certainty, chasing give hope, over-explaining give temporary control, going back gave familiarity. But the new path is the new path often give you silence first. And most of people are not prepared for that silence. There is a famous experiment people use when they talk about patience. The Marshmallow Test. A child is placed in a room with a treat. They are told they can eat one now or wait and get more later. Most people explain the lesson like this. Successful people have more willpower. But that is not the most useful part of the story. The interesting part is what children actually did while waiting. Some covered their eyes. Some looked away. Some talked to themselves. Some sang. Some created a little distractions. They were not surviving the wait by staring at the marshmallow with a heroic discipline. They survived by changing their relationship to the thing tempting them. That's matter, because many adults do the opposite. They say they are being patient, but they keep staring at the missing proof. They check the analytics every hour. They refresh the message. They keep looking at the scale. They keep checking whatever the person noticed. They keep asking whatever the work is finally paying off. And then they wonder why patience feels unbearable. Of course, it feels unbearable. You are staring directly at the absence of reassurance. You are making the silence louder. The lessons is not simply wait longer. The lessons is if you want to survive the wait, you need to manage attention. Patience is not just time. Patience is where you place your focus while time is passing. And this is why reassurance becomes so addictive. Because reassurance gives the mind something to look at. A sign, a number, a message, a complaint, a small win, something that says, relax, you are not wasting your time. But here's what no one talks about. If you need that signal every few steps, you are not building patience, you are building dependency. And dependency cannot survive absence, which means the moment your signal disappears, so you do, and the signal always disappears eventually. So the real question is not how do I get more signals? The real question is, what do I run on when the signal stops? Patience and reassurance look similar from outside. Both people may be waiting, may appear calm. Both may say, I'm giving it time, but internally they are very different. Patience says, I can continue without proof. Reassurance says, I need a proof so I can continue. That difference is everything, because the patient person is anchored to a standard. The reassurance dependent person is anchored to feedback, and feedback is unstable. Some days people support you, and some days they ignore you. Some days the numbers move, and days they don't. Some days the work feels meaningful, and other days it just feels invisible. If your direction depends on feedback, your identity becomes easy to disturb. One bad day becomes a verdict. One delay becomes a crisis. One silence becomes a period where the reason to go back. That's what I called reassurance dependency. Reassurance dependency is when your ability to continue depends on the world emotionally confirming you every few steps. And once that happens, silence stops feeling natural. Silence starts feeling like rejection, like failure, like a proof that you made the wrong choice. But sometimes silence is not proof of failure. Sometimes silence is just a gap between behavior and result. And that gap is where the real test happens. Here is the part that makes this difficult. Your brain is not natural when you change. Your brain is constantly asking, did this work? Was this worth the energy? Should we repeat this? That is how learning works. When an action produces a reward, your brain marks it as useful. When an action produces no reward, the brain initiates what neuroscience called rewards prediction error. A signal, a recalibration. Your dopamine system compares the new behavior to the old reward cycle, and right now, the new path is losing. Not because it was wrong, because it have not paid yet, and your brain does not know the difference between hasn't paid yet and will never pay. It only knows what it has confirmed. So imagine this. You stop reacting emotionally, but nobody suddenly respects you more. You go to the gym for 2 weeks, but your body looks almost the same. You start building the channel, but the views are still low. You choose peace, but peace feels empty. You stop chasing approval, but independence feels lonely. So your brain says, where is the reward? And this is when the old patterns start sounding intelligent. Maybe I should go back. Maybe this is not working. Maybe I was better before. Maybe I need one sign before I continue. But listen carefully. The old pattern is not always attractive because it's better. It is attractive because it pays faster. Reacting pays fast. Checking pays fast. Chasing pays fast. Going back pays fast. The new path is slower. It requires delayed trust. And that is why the first phase of growth often feels worse than the old pattern. Not because the old pattern was right, but because the old pattern knew how to comfort you quickly. There is a strange gap between who you were and who you are becoming. In that gap, you don't fully belong to the old version anymore, but you don't feel confirmed in the new version yet. You stop reacting, but you do not feel powerful yet. You stop chasing approval, but you do not feel free yet. You stop tolerating certain things, but you don't feel peaceful yet. You started showing up seriously, but the world has not responded yet. That is identity gap, and it is one of the most uncomfortable part of real change. Because growth does not always begin by giving you something. Sometimes growth begins by taking away the old comfort. The old identity gave you a feedback, even it was unhealthy, it was familiar. The new identity asks for time. At first, it may give you very little emotionally. So you start asking, why do I feel worse after making better decisions? That questions matter, because better decisions does not always feel better immediately. Sometimes they feel empty, they feel lonely, they feel boring, they feel unrewarded. If you were used to chaos, peace can be like nothing. If you were used to approvals, self-respect can feel isolating. If you were used to urgency, stability can feel slow. This is why people return to the old patterns, not because it was good, but because it was known. And this is the moment most people choose to leave, not because they failed, because they got tired of what not knowing. Because uncertainty is physiologically exhausting in a way that failure is not. Failure gives you information, uncertainty gives you nothing. And the brain, running on reward prediction error, begins its most dangerous calculation. If I have no evidence, maybe there will never be evidence. This is the moment, the exact moment, the one where almost everyone who was going to quit, quits. Not in a dramatic moment, not after a loud collapse, in the quiet. In 1979, a man named James Dyson had a problem. His vacuum cleaner kept losing suction. He took it apart. He could not find the answer. So he built a prototype. It did not work. He built another one. It did not work either. He kept building prototype 100, no result. Prototype 1000, no result. Prototype 3000, and again, no result. His savings were gone. His bank threatened to take his house. His friends quietly stopped asking how the project was going. His wife continued teaching art to pay the bills. For 15 years, James Dyson had no external confirmation that he was right. No investor, no patent, no proof that the market would respond. Just a standard. He had decided what the vacuum cleaner should be able to do. And every prototype was tested against that standard. Not against hope, not against what other people thought, not against the feeling in his chest on a bad morning, against a measurable behavioral testable standard. Prototype 5127. It worked. In 1993, he launched the DC-01 within 2 years. It became the best-selling vacuum cleaner in the United Kingdom. Today, Dyson is worth over $9 billion. But here's the part where people miss. When they tell the story, Dyson did not persist because he was more motivated than the other people. He persisted because he replaced mood with a standard. He replaced, I feel like this is working, with, I know what working looks like. He replaced emotional confirmation with behavioral evidence. He replaced anxious checking with a structural review. That is the architecture of continuation, and it is the only thing that survives the gap. Here's what I want you to take from this. Not be more like Dyson. That is too simple. What I want you to take from this is the structure, because the structure is what makes continuation possible when reassurance is gone. There are 3 replacements. The first replacement, replace mood with a standard. Mood says, I don't feel like this is working. Standard says, here's what working looks like. Has that happened? Not do I feel progress, but what does progress looks like in measurable terms? Write it down before the silence begins, because in the silence, mood will lie to you. Mood was designed for short-term survival. Standards were designed for long-term construction. The second replacement, replace external proof with behavioral evidence. External proof says, the world needs to show me, am I right? Behavioral evidence says, do I do the things I said I would do? Not did anyone notice, but did I show up? Not did the numbers move, but did my behavior match the standard? The only data point you control is your own action. Everything else is noise. If you anchor to external proof, silence feels like verdict. If you anchor to behavioral evidence, you always have data. The data is your own continuity. The third replacement, replace anxious checking with a structured review. Anxious checking says, let me look again, maybe something changed. Structured review says, on this date, at this time, I will evaluate where things stands. The difference is not discipline, the difference is protocol. Anxious checking feeds the dependency. It keeps the loops open. It makes the silence louder. Structured review closes the loop at a scheduled time. Between reviews, you do not check. You continue. These 3 replacements are the architecture of what I called structured continuation. Not patience, not willpower, not motivation. Structured continuation. So look at the things you are waiting for right now. The result that has not arrived, the change that feels invisible, the silence that is making you doubt yourself. Are you waiting for the time to pass, or are you waiting for reassurance? Because if you are waiting for reassurance, you are not being patient. You are just holding your breath, and eventually you will have to exhale. Eventually, the silence will break you. But if you can replace the need for proof with a standard of behavior, if you can stop asking, is this working, and start asking, am I continuing? If you can survive the identity gap without running back to the old reward system, the patient stops being waiting. It becomes power. Because the version of you that needs constant reassurance can never build anything that requires time. But the version of you that can continue without it can finally compound.